Talk. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. And if you go over to onenewsnow.com, you can find the newest Kevin McCullough syndicated column. It is a piece touching on what we talked about last week with the president deciding that he's not going to let anybody know the details to the Iran deal. So again, you can check that out. It's on onenewsnow.com, and it is titled "Covert or Criminal." What are the actions being carried out under our current chief administrator right now? All right, Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And just a reminder, if you feel like you're under attack right now, this week, today, run to the Good Shepherd. That's Pastor Simbala's encouragement for us from the Pray 2014 campaign. Mix that into your prayer. As you're praying this week, Lord, give me a way to understand that I can run to you. Show me how I can depend upon you more. Help me to put my faith and trust in you more deeply on a daily basis. Friends, these are the things that we need to be praying about, and I'm going to pray that for you, and I ask you to pray that for me as we go through this week. All right. And if you want more information, pray2014.com, pray2014.com, pray2014.com. All right, I mentioned a series of headlines at the top of the broadcast. Just a reminder what's going on. There's a story out of Virginia where these mobs of largely racial groups have descended upon stores and are causing all kinds of havoc. This is not just an isolated incident, and it kind of is the birthplace of where the knockout game and controversy came from. We may deal with that if we have time. There's also a bunch of Republicans, guys that have generally been good on the issues that I'm always most concerned about, that basically gave up yesterday, or they just said that they had to give up, that there's nothing they can do, and that discourages me. I don't know if that's exactly true or not. What do we the people do if our representatives are saying there's nothing that they can do? I'll get to all that, but I want to talk about this now. If you're watching on the channel on AFA today, the channel online, this is a very peculiar thing. What I have here is a picture, and for those of you just listening by way of radio, the picture includes the press room of the United States. It looks like President Obama is leaving a press conference of some sort, and he is kicking in a door. Okay? It's not a flattering picture of the president. It's certainly not something that they would release. You know, because when they release pictures of him shooting a shotgun, and he's shooting the clay pigeons, right? And he's shooting. By the way, he's shooting straight ahead, where usually the clay pigeons are in the air, but he's shooting straight ahead when he's shooting. But that's the kind of pictures they release because they want to show him. But this particular photo was a spoof. It was a joke. A student at McGill University in Canada sent this, and they edited it on their computer, and they made a .gif out of it, GIF. It's a photo format file, and with GIFs you can actually create movement with several pictures in a row, kind of like old films. And so this was an image that actually appeared on the Jay Leno Tonight Show not long ago. And it just humorously suggested that the president might have been fed up with press conferences. So that what they did is they did this picture. He walks away from the press podium, kicks in the door, and then leaves. It's entirely a joke. It's entirely a piece of humor. It's entirely a sarcastic bit of wit saying, hey, maybe the president's tired of having to do these press conferences. But what happened next is almost unbelievable, because this student at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, has been forced to issue a formal apology for sending this picture of President Obama kicking open a door to some of their friends. Now, this wasn't a public email. He didn't send this to the universe. He sent this to several of the people that he knew, but another student issued a formal complaint against the student for committing what was called, and check out this word, microaggression. Microaggression. Make note of that word. Watch that word now begin to pop up in news media coverage and other places. Microaggression. For those not up to date on the PC use of this, microaggression is the latest phrase of choice for what the Daily Caller calls leftist radicals seeking to blame racism for common annoyances suffered by people of all races. So you have these activists at the University of Michigan, for example, who have insisted that trivial slights such as having your opinion second-guessed in a group assignment are microaggressions based on race. Let's see. The particular picture in question here, this GIF of President Obama kicking the door is said to be racist because of the cultural, historical, and living legacy surrounding people of color. This according to the complaint, particularly young men being portrayed as violent, according to the apology letter that Farnan was forced to write. Technically, he got off easy under the McGill student government's equity policy. He could have been suspended or even dismissed from his position as vice president in the organization, a student-led organization. The decision to force him to apologize was apparently made by an equity commissioner whose will can only be overturned by 2/3 majority of the student government. Now, the Daily Caller calls this student a true victim of the thought police. He was forced to denounce his heretical email. Quote, despite the innocent intentions influencing my decision to use this particular image, I have come to recognize the negative implications of adding that image within this given context. By using this particular image of President Obama, I unknowingly perpetuated this living legacy and subsequently allowed a medium of communication to become the site of microaggression, and for this I am sorry. The punishment of the student has proved controversial, however. Now the student government has plans to review the equity policy in coming weeks. Now, this is a very intriguing story to me on two levels. One, that first of all, if they're going to say that a student that uses this image captured from a screen grab from the Jay Leno show is committing microaggression, what are they going to say about television broadcasts that create these spoofs? The Saturday Night Lives, the late night comedians, the other people that do any type of spoof off of something that is real or perceived to be real, that's how humor is made from real life, right? I mean, so when someone has an idiosyncrasy and it's funny, then that turns into a way to imitate that person. It may not be flattering, but it's not always insulting. There's just this flattery is what it is. Imitation is what it is. But because of this new perceived, and it's kind of like, I've been saying for a while that the sexual rights lobby, the lobby that believe that the Constitution actually has a sexual liberties section of it, and that's just perceived, as opposed to the actual religious liberties language that the Constitution actually have. The sexual rights liberties group is going head-to-head in conflict with the religious liberties group, and right now they're winning in the courts. Something that is not defined anywhere, like this, microaggression, is being used to condemn a person for simply making an editorial statement, a statement of their own belief, a statement of something that they found funny, a statement that there is no indication in this picture at all, not one, that there's any amount of racial element to it. There's not a single piece of this picture that's like, oh, because the man is black, that's why this was that's why this was funny. Now, I want to know your reaction to this. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840, because I do have a couple of thoughts that are entering my mind now, and one of them is if we keep coming up with undefinable crimes, pretty soon it's just going to be mob rule. Whoever has 51% can just imprison everybody else. Yeah, well, you didn't vote for him, so that's microaggression. Kevin, when you wrote the column, is our commander covert or criminal, that you can read on onenewsnow.com today, when you wrote that column, you were committing microaggression against the president. I believe that this term is going to become a very familiar part of the public journalism and legal lexicon, and that people are going to begin to use it, and they're going to try to imprison people and fine people and punish people because of this perceived idea that is not definable of microaggression. What are your thoughts about that? Am I off my rocker for thinking that could be the next vein of attack against people that disagree? 888-589-8840. Now, this student, he just wasn't forced to take it down. He wasn't just forced to remove it from the email or to send an email, saying that he shouldn't have done that, etc. He was forced to write a public apology and to renounce his actions of using that picture. And this was only forced upon him by a student body. Friends, there's no legal right that they have to force him to do this. For all I know, he could have said, hey, go blow it out your ear, dude. I'm staying by my story. But the pressure was put upon him in such a way that he was going to be labeled racist, subversive, all kinds of things, because they roll this word microaggression into the mix. I'm curious just how powerful or potent you think that microaggression term actually is. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840, because this seems to me to be an incredible overreach by the student that was offended, number one, but then by the student government group that got behind them and said, yeah, we're going to push this thing. Shouldn't the editorial pages of our papers, of our student papers, of our published papers, of the websites that are on the web, shouldn't we, in a right to speak your mind society, a place where we have the freedom of speech embodied and protected in the constitutional amendment that started the whole document, shouldn't it be that we can more or less say almost anything on the editorial page and be more or less left alone? Because at this point, if you're saying something crazy, I just think you're crazy, and I move on. And if I really don't like it, I'll write my own editorial, and I'll publish it somewhere else, and I'll make sure that people know my thoughts in reaction to your thoughts, and I'll let those two groups of thoughts be weighed in the public marketplace. I'll let the two thoughts compete against one another. I'll let the two thoughts sit there side by side and say, which one of us makes more sense? Because, see, what I'll do is I'll go after the purposeful confusion of the matter. I will destroy that. I will obliterate that. I will say, no, you're not telling the truth here, because really what you're saying is this, and I'll lay it out like that. And then I'll say, and really what we should be thinking is this, and I'll amplify the truth about where that goes. And then I'll say, come on, let's pursue clarity together. Shouldn't that be the way our student newspapers, our mainstream newspapers, our news outlets, our cable channels, our news radio, shouldn't this be the way we practice free speech in today's 21st century world? No, we can't do that. We can't do that. Because if you say something that offends the left, even mildly, now you're committing microaggression. And it's based on race. And you're a devil. There isn't just people with simple disagreements anymore. Now you are Satan. And you must be punished. Now, our founding fathers would be a little surprised at this, Because in the early days, and you can ask David Barton about this, there were a lot of people that didn't agree with one another, particularly in the early Continental Congress. And somewhere around the first or second year after the U.S. Congress was fully established, one of the senators broke his cane, hitting another senator over the top of the head with it because they got into such a riled-up disagreement about something that they principally believed but differed on. But no one was arrested. They didn't drag those people out and say, oh, you disagree with us, you're a heretic, you're committing treason, you must die. Not for belief, not for thought, not for argument, not for discussion. I firmly believe that when you bring an idea like microaggression to the table, first of all, it's a completely imagined concept. There is no legal basis for this. This is thought police. This is you trying to say what the intentions were of that boy publishing that picture. And at the end of the day, how can you prove what his intent? You can't. So you make up something. I want to know your thoughts on this, because I think this is a genuine threat to the First Amendment in every and most important way possible. 888-589-8840. But maybe I'm committing microaggression in believing that. 888-589-8840. It's Kevin McCullough with you on AFA Today on AFR Talk, and I want to talk with you about this concept of microaggression as we continue. Stay with us here on AFR Talk.